This is Careers Cast, a podcast for students and early career professionals who want to develop a successful and meaningful long-term career in technology. I'm your host, Marcio Saito. Welcome to this first episode of Careers Cast in 2025, and today we'll discuss the impact of AI in your career, a topic that has dominated conversations in the past couple of years. The rise of the internet in the 1990s is probably the only technology-driven disruption in recent history that matches the magnitude and can serve as a reference for us to estimate the impact of AI technology in your lives and in your careers. I was very close to the beginnings of the commercial internet, and the expectations and level of speculation were similar to what we experience today with AI. All I can say is that for technologies that have such a broad potential impact in society, changes happen much slower than pundits anticipate. So if you read an article saying that 2025 is the year where AI will change your life, relax. Changes will be more gradual and slower than people predict. My general recommendation for early career professionals is to stay the course, embrace AI tools and technology, and talk to people who are further along the career you are pursuing to get their perspective and learn about the adjustments you need to do in your learning and preparation for the next job because of the adoption of AI technology. Those concepts are in an article that I wrote, and what follows is a discussion on that article. Enjoy the conversation, and I'll be back live at the end for final comments.
It's kind of wild, right? It feels like AI is just everywhere these days, and we're barely into 2025. I think for a lot of us, though, the question isn't so much, will AI change the world? I think it's more like, is it going to affect me and my job?
Yeah, definitely.
Hey.
And that's exactly what the article we're diving into today is all about. It's called The Impact of AI in Your Career.
Oh, right. And it's written by
Marcio Saito.
Marcio Saito.
He's been in the tech world forever, so he's got a good perspective on all of this.
He's seen a lot of these trends come and go. And you know what really struck me? He published this on January 6th, right in the middle of all this AI craziness.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's not just like a knee-jerk reaction. He's really thinking long-term.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we're going to try to get to the bottom of this. Like, which jobs are really going to be impacted? How does AI affect things beyond just, taking over jobs? And most importantly, what can people do about it right now? What can we do today?
Because a little bit of concern, that's healthy, but full-blown panic. Nobody needs that. Yeah, for real. So let's just get right to it. Like, will robots steal our jobs? That's the big fear, right?
Right.
And, Saito talks about this right away. He brings up some examples from Google Gemini. They've been kind of leading the way in AI predictions, haven't they?
They have.
What's their take on all this?
Well, they say jobs with a lot of repetitive tasks are the ones that could be at risk, like data entry, telemarketing, and even some truck driving in certain situations.
Yeah, those are the ones that always come up, don't they?
They do. They also mention some other roles that might be impacted. Manufacturing workers, proofreaders.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's what Google Gemini thinks.
Yeah. But Saito also makes a really important point. He says that when you look back, past tech advancements haven't actually led to less work for us humans.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. So it makes you think, is this time really different?
Right. Like, are we just freaking out because it's new?
It's a good question. And that's where the this time IS different argument comes in. Google Gemini is basically saying, look, AI is evolving so fast, the old rules might not apply anymore.
I mean, you're right. The pace of change is insane. Just look at what's happened in the last few years.
Exactly.
But okay, hold on. Does that really mean everything's going to be different this time?
Right. Well, to get a handle on that, Saito introduces this model called the Gartner Hype Cycle.
The Gartner Hype Cycle. I think I've heard of that.
Have you?
Vaguely.
Okay.
I could definitely use a refresher.
So it's this really interesting idea that new tech tends to follow this, predictable pattern. It starts with a technology trigger, something like inventing the internet Or, I don't know, maybe the launch of ChatGPT-3 back in early 2020.
ChatGPT-3, right.
And that triggers a ton of excitement, investment, and a lot of times, I mean, the expectations get a little crazy. Everyone's talking about how it's going to change the world overnight.
Oh, tell me about it. With ChatGPT-3, I swear everyone suddenly became an AI expert. And every company was like, we need an AI strategy, like right now.
It's totally true. That's the peak of inflated expectations. But then, you know, reality sets in. The tech doesn't quite live up to all the hype. And then there's this period of, well, disillusionment.
So people give up.
Yeah, some people give up. Investment dries up.
Oh, so that's what they call the trough of disillusionment.
Exactly.
I bet that's where we are with the metaverse right now. Remember all that hype a couple of years ago?
Yeah. And now, not so much.
Not so much.
Good example. But hold on, the hype cycle doesn't end there. The tech keeps developing, people figure out what it's actually good for, and then you start to see real-world uses, like, you know, actual benefits, and then it actually starts to become a part of our lives. They call that the slope of enlightenment.
Okay, so if ChatGPT-3 was the trigger, does that mean with AI, we're still somewhere near that peak of inflated expectations?
It's a good question.
And if so, what does that mean for our careers? Like, how should we be thinking about all this?
That's a great question. And it brings us to another really interesting point that Saito makes. He says that technology often hits the industries that are closest to where it's being developed first,
Oh, interesting.
even if it doesn't really logically make sense.
So he's saying it's not about where the technology would be most useful. It's about who's closest to it.
Yeah, who has access to it, who's willing to experiment, who's got the money and the people to make it happen.
So it's like, it's not about logic. It's about, I don't know, opportunity.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
He uses the example of self-driving cars.
Right.
Why are we so focused on that when it's so hard to do? I mean, it's still a long way off from being something everyone uses.
Exactly. And that's his point. It's not always about where the tech makes the most practical sense at first,
Okay.
but who's already there? You know, who's ready to jump in?
Yeah. Oh, I see. So he's saying that the automotive industry is pretty close to where a lot of AI development is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So they're more likely to be early adopters, even if the technology isn't quite ready for prime time yet.
Exactly. And then he applies that same logic to software development.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So even though it's a complex field, he thinks it might be one of the first to feel the impact of AI because it's so close to where AI is happening.
Right.
Huh. I don't know if I like that. That's kind of scary for anyone in tech, isn't it? I feel like we always assume software development is going to be one of the out-heavy things that AI can really take over.
It does make you think. It challenges those assumptions.
Okay, so just to recap, we might be near that peak of inflated expectations.
Yeah.
And AI might affect things in unexpected ways. But what does that actually mean for us? Like, for someone listening to this right now, should we all just learn to code and hope for the best? Or should we just go off the grid and become, like, farmers or something?
I think that's what's making people nervous, for sure. How do you prepare for a future where the rules are constantly changing? And AI could show up anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where Saito's advice for people who are early in their careers, you know, just starting out, that's where that advice comes in. And I like that he doesn't say, like, drop everything and become a plumber. He actually says the opposite.
He does, yeah. He's not saying, like, give up on your dreams of being a doctor or a lawyer or a software developer. He's like, no, those fields are still going to be there.
Exactly. And there's still going to be a lot of opportunity there. He really believes that.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
But still, what are we supposed to do about it? You and I both, we love actionable advice, right?
Don't you?
So what does he say? What are we supposed to actually do?
He's got 3 main recommendations,
Yeah.
and I think you'll find them pretty down to earth. First, he says to really embrace continuous learning.
Okay, continuous learning. We hear that a lot these days.
We do. But specifically, he talks about something called AI literacy.
AI literacy. Oh, what does that even mean? It sounds kind of intimidating, to be honest.
It's not about becoming an AI expert overnight. You don't have to go get a PhD in AI. But it is about understanding the basics, you know, how AI works, what it's good at, what it's not good at,
Yeah.
and how people are using it in different industries. It's like you don't have to be a mechanic to drive a car, but it helps to know how to change a tire or at least check the oil.
That's a good way to put it. So for someone in marketing, AI literacy would mean understanding how AI is being used for things like targeted advertising
Right.
or content creation.
Exactly. Or if you're in finance, you'd want to know how they're using it for things like fraud detection or risk assessment.
Makes sense. So basically, it's about being able to have conversations about AI, like intelligent conversations, understanding how it might affect your job, and maybe even spotting opportunities to use it to your advantage.
You got it. It's not just about protecting yourself from AI. It's about, like, maybe AI can help you do your job better.
I like that. So it's not about AI versus humans. It's about humans plus AI.
Totally. Working together.
Okay, love it. Continuous learning, AI literacy. What's the next one?
His second recommendation is to focus on human skills. Remember all those jobs we were talking about earlier? The ones that are most at risk, like the ones with lots of repetitive tasks? Well, the opposite of that is that jobs that really require human skills, they're going to become even more important.
So things like creativity,
Yeah,
critical thinking, problem solving,
absolutely.
emotional intelligence.
All those things?
Oh, and the ability to, like, build relationships, collaborate. Those are all really human things.
Totally. And those are all things that are really hard, if not impossible, for AI to do right now. I mean, they're trying, but
They're getting there,
yeah,
but they're not there yet.
not yet.
And I think it's important to point out, those aren't just like soft skills that are nice to have. They're becoming like essential.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful in a world where AI is doing more and more of the routine stuff, you got to have those human skills.
100%. And it's really about, figuring out where human ingenuity and AI can work together. It's not about one replacing the other.
Okay, I love it. So we've got continuous learning, we've got human skills. What's the third one? What's number 3?
This is probably the most important one, actually.
Okay.
Cultivate a growth mindset.
The growth mindset. Yeah, I'm so glad he included that. Because honestly, all this AI stuff, it can feel kind of scary.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that mindset of like being open to learning and adapting, you're going to get stuck. You're just going to be reacting out of fear.
Yeah. And he's not just saying, like, go learn these 3 things and you'll be fine. He's saying the world is going to keep changing. Like, that's the only constant.
Pretty much, yeah.
So the ability to adapt, that's your most valuable asset.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something you can start working on right now. It doesn't matter how old you are, how much experience you have, what you do for a living. Anyone can cultivate a growth mindset.
Absolutely. It's about being curious, being willing to try new things, and being open to feedback. It's about seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and grow.
Okay. So we've got the high-level ideas, but how do we actually put all this into practice?
Well, Sato has a pretty interesting suggestion. He encourages people to go out and have informational interviews with folks who are already working in their field.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because you could read all the articles and listen to all the podcasts you want, but nothing beats hearing it straight from someone who's actually doing the work, day in and day out.
Exactly. And it's a perfect way to use those AI literacy skills we were talking about. Like, imagine going into those conversations and being able to ask intelligent questions like, how is AI already impacting your work? What skills are becoming more valuable? What skills are becoming less valuable?
It's like getting a sneak peek into the future of your career. And you can use all this stuff we've talked about today to really guide those conversations, Ask the right questions. Make sure you're getting the most out of those conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great advice.
Yeah. And I think this is a good place to kind of transition into some final thoughts.
Okay.
Because we've covered a lot. It's easy to get lost in the weeds, all the details about AI. But ultimately, it comes back to us. We have agency. This isn't something that's just happening to us. We can actually shape how AI evolves, how it becomes part of our lives, and how we can use it to make things better.
We can't just sit around and wait to see what happens. We have to be a part of it.
We have to shape it.
Exactly.
Like, AI is this super powerful tool, but it is just a tool. It's up to us to figure out how we're going to use it. How are we going to integrate it into our work? How are we going to use it to, create new things? Think back to that hype cycle, right? We might be up there at the peak of all the hype, but that doesn't mean AI is just going to vanish. It means we've got this chance to learn, to separate fact from fiction, and to make smarter decisions.
Instead of freaking out about what AI might take away, maybe we should be asking, like, what could AI help me create?
There you go. This isn't about hanging on to the past. This is about building something new. And it could be amazing, but we have to be able to adapt. We got to be lifelong learners. And we got to be willing to try new things.
Speaking of learning, while you're thinking about your career, maybe even setting up those informational interviews, I've got one last question for you to think about.
Okay, hit me.
What's that one thing, that one extra skill that would make you, like, future-proof, something we haven't talked about yet? What would give you an edge in this new world with AI?
That's a good one. Something to really chew on.
Yeah, something to think about.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Hit us up on social media, or even better, talk to someone in your field about it.
Yeah, start a conversation. Because the best way to deal with all this uncertainty is to just talk about it. Share what you think. And learn from each other. We're all in this together, figuring it out as we go.
And remember, AI might be changing the rules of the game, but we're still the ones playing.
So get out there, take on the challenge, keep learning.
Keep diving deep.
Until next time.
This is Marcio back live. So it is possible that one day robots will replace most of us and humans no longer need to work. That's a vision that has existed for a long time, and that would trigger changes in society, changing the purpose of human work and creating challenges in how to distribute income and wealth, for example. I first read a book from Domenico Di Masi in my teenage years discussing exactly that reality. 40 years later, technology has not yet replaced humans, and we will still need to work to make a living. While that might not last forever, worrying about it is not exactly the best way to prepare for it. So I suggest embrace AI tools and learn how to use them to make your life and work more productive. Talk to people further along the careers you are pursuing to get their perspective on how AI is being used to change existing jobs. And continue learning, growing, and moving forward. Please share this podcast with your peers, and see you in the next episode of Careers Cast.